Hey, I'm Nathan Bernier. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this live stream's up and running, I'll be very happy, and it looks like it is. We're going to be talking about Austin's light rail plans and answering your questions about this $7 billion project. I am, as I said, Nathan Bernier. I'm a transportation reporter at KUT News, Austin's NPR station. I'm at home right now. We don't have any Tim Doyle artwork at KUT, but I got it behind me, in case you're wondering. This is an AMA for the Austin subreddit, talking about Austin's light rail plans. You can go and leave a question there right now on the Austin subreddit. You can feel free to pop something in the chat. We'll get to that. And this is going to be archived. So let me just make sure that we're actually also streaming on Twitter/X, and we are. Fantastic. We're going to get to a lot of your questions. We're going to be posting the responses on Reddit at the same time. I have a bunch of slides to show you. As you can see, here's one right here. A bunch of visuals to show you, as long as my live streaming software wants to cooperate. I hope you'll bear with me because I'm relatively new to this live streaming stuff, but I love watching it on YouTube. I love witnessing this kind of thing, just casual conversation. And so I hope that this goes well and we can do more of these. But hey, thanks, Ian, for saying thank you for doing this. So you can, if you're watching this on Twitter or X, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@KUTNathan. I'm up to 32 subscribers now, so maybe you can be number 33. Let's just wing it here. So you can see some of these renderings that ATP had commissioned for this. These were made by a company called Wax Architectural Visualizations. And these images just came out with the draft environmental impact statement, which is a rather intensive study that ATP has to produce in order to qualify for federal funding. This is a drone photo that I took of Riverside Drive. This is going to be if ATP has its way, a separate pedestrian path and bikeway next to the light rail, tree lined with additional pedestrian crossings down what is Riverside Drive and what will remain Riverside Drive, but it would look a lot different than this. There's also going to be under the plans a bridge coming across Lady Bird Lake. This is the old Statesman building here, coming through the Waller Creek Beach House, I think it's called. And they will have to demolish that to connect this bridge. Elevated station here at Waterfront. And so we got a lot going on. This is the AMA. Sorry, this is all like gigantic. But basically, if you go to the Austin subreddit, you'll find this post, and you can leave your questions for me. Some folks have left a bunch already. I just wanted to flip over here to talk a little bit briefly about the DEIS because we call it the draft, and they call it the draft environmental impact statement. It's on their website, and forgive me if I'm going to be drinking water during this. Because I'm going to be talking solo for a long time, which is actually harder than you might think. As someone who speaks for a living, I never realized until recently how hard it is to talk for like an hour straight or half an hour straight, however long this takes. I've been told to try and keep it to half an hour, and we'll see if I can do that. But after we go through the questions and stuff, I did want to, if there's time, do a walkthrough of the route and show you some of what's going to change, like specifically block by block, and some of the displacements that will happen, some of the businesses that will be forced to move. And there's potentially 4 single-family homes that will be pushed out. It just depends on which design option they choose. There's the main option, and then they have like slight modifications of that, and then there are recommendations, which we'll get to. But this is the Austin Transit Partnerships website. They have a new logo in the top left, you can see. And this is the draft environmental impact statement. So it's like all of the more than 50 separate PDFs. You can just like literally click on one. Appendix C, part 1 and part 2, if you really just want to cut to the chase here and like what is going to happen block by block, that's what you can look at. We actually merged all of these into a single doc that is 16,000 pages. Because it includes all the appendices and everything. And if you go to you can go to KUT.org/Nathan, and this will be one of the more recent stories that I filed under my byline. And this is the 605 megabyte file. If you want to just download it all at once, it can make it easier to search. It's not that, if you have like a newer computer, it's not that hard to open. But I just sort of have an outline here of what we want to do. I mean, I want to start with a little bit of the history of this in case you're totally unfamiliar with, like, what is Austin Light Rail? You moved here last month and you heard something about it and you don't really know, are we going to get a light rail system? Just to give you like top headline stuff, it's, well, let's go back in time a little bit. So we'll start with, this was the original map presented to voters prior to an election in November 2020, in which people, a majority of voters, approved a tax increase. I believe the largest single property tax increase in the city's history, to fund the largest transit expansion in the city's history. And this is it. The purple lines are bus rapid transit. They're running a bit behind schedule, but 2 of these are due to launch this year with reduced service this spring, and then with the full 10-minute electrified service in 2026. But what we're talking about today is not so much that. Excuse me. We're talking about light rail. By the way, let me know if you can hear me, if everything is cool, and the levels are good. Ian, I see your questions in the chat. Those are great questions. Please, anyone else, we'll try and get to those. And anyone else, please pop your questions in there. Would love to talk to you. So, okay, back to this PDF. This was the original plan, totaling 20.2 miles. 28 miles if you double count the orange and blue lines as they go side by side here. But basically, it was going to be this blue line going from North Lamar Transit Center here at 183 and Lamar Boulevard into downtown, connecting at Republic Square and with the orange line, and then having a downtown subway. This sort of black and yellow thatched area is the downtown subway, which was quite the promise. I mean, we're talking not just an underground subway, but shopping, entertainment, live music, all that stuff. The blue line would have gone all the way out to the airport. And then the orange line from North Lamar Transit Center down to Stastny, with the plans to extend it to Slaughter Transit Center. And this is also a plan to extend it in the future up to Tech Ridge up here. And then there's some other stuff here. This green line is like a commuter rail line that is still planned, but far off in the future. And then the red line is the existing red line, the Metro Rail that already exists. Or sorry, now they call it Cap Metro Rail. They sort of rebranded last year. So this was approved. This was this is a sort of a boring document to read, but it's very important. It's called. This is the contract with the voters. This is the city council resolution. A couple important things to highlight in here. They do say, I don't know if you're familiar with council resolutions. Basically, the where you could just sort of ignore the whereas and the be it resolved and just read, like they're just saying, this is because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this, we're going to do this. Be it resolved. And one of the things they pointed out was, we clarify that, by the way, if this requires modification, we can do it if the council and Cap Metro board agree. And they also talk about down here, and, we're going to be collecting this property tax until we've paid off all the debts incurred to build this system, and the funds are no longer required for operations, maintenance, or state of good repair for assets funded by ATP. I believe that is basically indefinitely. They are still planning to use those funds to pay for the operation of light rail, because it's a subsidized transportation system, just like highways or roads are subsidized, except for certain toll roads, but otherwise they're paid for by the public. And they say that they acknowledge that any of these bonds have to be reviewed and approved by the Attorney General of the state of Texas, which has become somewhat of an issue, and we can touch on that. And then this was the actual proposition on the ballot, and the tax rate increase. And they had this document here that explained, well, this is a website, an informational website prior to the election that explains what they were going to do. The transit's tunnel downtown, new bus rapid routes. Project Connect, this is called Project Connect. And it is mainly light rail, but it's not only light rail. And there's other stuff going on. They're doing a lot of this stuff, these, circulators. They're doing on-demand transit. They're building park and rides. They are devoting money to this anti-displacement effort, which we're going to touch on. And there's obviously a tax bill impact. This was back then, for a $250,000 home, be about $219 a year. $500,000 home, paying an extra $438 a year in property taxes. So, everyone has a vested interest in this transit project. But what happened was, in April 2022, a memo came out after, the election was successful, and they got sort of to designing a lot of these systems and looking at what they could do. And they found out, actually, this is going to cost a lot more than we thought, guys. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. The main one was the tunnel had to be a lot longer than they assumed. And so they have this table here. This is linked to in a story on the website. If you just search KUT for light rail inflation, you'll find this story and a link to this. But yeah, so, the tunnel, we thought it'd be $2 billion. Actually, it's going to be more than double. And so all of this stuff, and you could go through this. Inflation was definitely a factor. Real estate was going to cost more, acquiring the real estate. They thought, well, we'll have to pay $250 million for the orange and blue lines, to buy out homes or businesses or properties or whatever. And then they said, actually, it's probably closer to $940 million. So all this stuff, it increased the cost. And eventually what happened was, this is actually the DEIS. You can see down in the corner here, 16,335 pages. But this DEIS has, the map, and it was this 9.5-mile map. I think I have it right here. No, I don't. But you can see here, this is 9.5 miles, 9.8 miles, my mistake, instead of 20.2 miles. And they're calling it the first phase. So they're saying, look, we're going to build this whole system, obviously, minus the downtown subway, which was a huge component of this, to be able to walk around downtown in the summer and, go get something to eat or whatever. If you've ever been to somewhere like Montreal, where they have basically an underground shopping mall connected to their metro rail, their subway, where I lived for 5 years, and it's great. And in the winters, it's a mall. It's not the most culturally eclectic place in the world, but that was the promise for Austin, was to have some kind of underground concourse. That's not going to happen. There's not been any talk of that happening. I've asked, technically it would be possible if they wanted to do that in the future, but that's not in the current plan. So this is their phase one plan. There's a catch though. Whenever you hear them say phase one, look at this one. So this was the initial investment, is what they called it, and then they changed the name to, now we're calling it phase one. So yeah, they're going to do the other stuff, but there's no funding to build anything else. There's money to design the additional pieces of this system. So this would be Austin's starter light rail system. And if you're unfamiliar with light rail, how is it different than bus? Just really briefly, it's a lot different than bus, because for one thing, you have dedicated guideway. You're not mixed in with traffic, so the trains can go faster. They can get you where you're going faster. They can move faster than the speed of traffic a lot of the time, especially during rush hour. And because of this sort of predictability of having a dedicated guideway, you could have more frequency and more sort of consistency. So you have, during the peak hours, the plans are to have this north section and this downtown section to have service every 5 minutes. A train's going to show up. So you don't need to look at a schedule during rush hour. You just walk to the station and wait for the next train to show up. And also the ride is way smoother than the bus. I don't know if you've ever taken light rail. I've lived in Vancouver and Montreal, which both had sort of light rail-ish systems. Vancouver has the SkyTrain, which is cool because it's elevated above ground. You can see where you're going. And Montreal has the Metro, which is below ground. I've lived outside Boston, which has the T, which is another light rail system, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, light rail is just so much smoother of a ride. You're not bumping around because you have, steel wheels with suspension on steel tracks. You're not talking about a bus that's going over potholes and everything like that. So ride quality is a lot better. The frequency is a lot better. It's faster than bus. So in many, it's just, and often easier to get on, just because they have these stations, where you're there's a platform and everything. So it's a superior transit product to the bus, you might say. It costs more to build, definitely. The cost to operate per passenger mile, like for each individual, how far they travel, is, according to NTD data I was looking at and some other stuff, it's actually lower to operate per passenger mile than the bus, largely because of the capacity, because it's much higher capacity. So anyway, we're going to get into some of that stuff, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a background because what happened was, they went back to the drawing board and they came up with this map. They've initially offered 5 options, had some public input. A lot of folks are disappointed it does not go all the way to the airport. It ends at Yellow Jacket Lane. The extension to the airport is considered a priority extension, but it's not being studied as part of this federal study. And same from 38th Street all the way up to Crestview, where there's a red line station, where that could be potentially a lot of ridership there, but that is also a priority extension not funded with this project. If they can get the money, they want to build those things first. That's what priority extension means. So here we are. This is our 9.8 mile map. Now, we're already 15 minutes into this, so let's get into some of the questions we have on our AMA on the Austin Reddit. We very appreciate the mods for accommodating us. Nice folks, and we thank them for their service. Volunteers. So here's a question. This got the most upvotes from ADR Lop. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. ADR Lop. What are the chances this project actually goes through? Is there anything Austinites could do to help it go through? So I want to address the latter question first. I actually asked ATP. I sent them some questions, like 3 questions yesterday, saying, can you please get me answers in time for this live stream? And I don't see the responses yet. Maybe they're in my email inbox somewhere, but I don't think they got back to me yet. They acknowledged the receipt. So, is there anything you can do to help it go through? Perhaps others have ideas. You can put it in the chat, basic advocacy. But if we get to some of these problems, these challenges, you might be able to think about that. So this is one of the big risks to the light rail plan, which is the Texas legislature. I'd say there's 3 main obstacles right now, at least. The most immediate is the Texas legislature. This is a picture of the Texas Senate. State Representative Ellen Troxclair, Republican from Lakeway, former Austin City Council member, plans to file legislation. She says she has it ready to go. I interviewed her pretty recently. And that she says, this legislation, she says it's a tax bill. It's not a transit bill, but it would make it, this would basically make it almost impossible for the Austin Transit Partnership to borrow money. By the way, the Austin Transit Partnership, I should have clarified, it's something called a local government corporation. And basically after the 2020 election, it was created to implement much of Project Connect, and it's become now responsible for financing and building the light rail network, and it's governed by a board of 5 people, including Austin's mayor. It has to have 1 person from city council. That's Mayor Kirk Watson. Prior to that, it was Mayor Steve Adler, and some other folks, including Jeffrey Trevelyan, who is of the Capital Metro Board, is the chair, and he's also a Travis County commissioner, and some other folks from the community who have their own sort of areas of expertise. Like there's a finance expert, a community expert, and the chair is Veronica Castro de Barrera is like an architect, so she's like a design expert. So 5 people on this board. And not to get too sidetracked here, but let's just take a look. ATP board members, because these are the people who are the ones who are these are the people in charge. These are the ones who are. Where's my Firefox here? Browser, come back. This is the board. Veronica Castro de Barrera, Kirk Watson, Juan Garza, community director. We have a new community director, Cami Horn, here, because there was a finance expert, John Langmore, who recently did not seek a renewal of his term. We'll get into that. And Jeffrey Trevelyan, the Cap Metro Board of Directors chair. So this is your board of directors. These are the folks in charge, responsible for making this happen. I would say they oversee the folks who are really doing all of the work, the staff. of the Austin Transit Partnership. So let's go back to our
So,
question
we're
one.
actively
Oh, we're
working
going to
with
get
the
to
Federal
that. Not yet. Easy now. Little spoiler there. So this dude is the other one who is proposing legislation that would basically make it impossible for the Austin Transit Partnership to borrow money. Why does ATP need to borrow money? Because they need to borrow billions potentially to build light rail. It's very expensive up front. That property tax that I mentioned, it's bringing in a lot of money, like almost 200 million a year now. It goes up a little bit every year, but that 200 million is not enough to build this light rail system within a reasonable amount of time, is what I've been told. So they need to borrow and then pay it back with that tax, right? So just so you understand their argument, they're accusing the ATP of using a loophole to basically take maintenance and how do I get too in the weeds here? Have a sip of coffee if you start to feel sleepy. So I'm saying this. They want to take basically the city has its maintenance and operations tax and its debt tax, and so they're taking the maintenance and operations money, transferring it to ATP, which would use it to issue bonds. The city would not necessarily not be able to do the same thing by itself. So they're saying, hey, you're using a loophole in the law. The city and ATP are saying, no, we're using the law that you wrote, SB2, to accomplish this. So this is going to play out at the Texas legislature, and it's going to be a big deal because they almost passed this law in 2023. It came down to the wire. The only thing that stopped it was a procedural objection by State Representative John Busey, Democrat from Austin. This is this is sort of explaining a little bit about that funding situation. So this dotted line, this is the debt. This is what they want to stop ATP from being able to get, right? And so as you can see, if they can't get the debt, if they can't finance the plan, getting those federal grants becomes a much more difficult argument. So that's one of the big risks is the Texas legislature. The other significant threat is from a pair of lawsuits, and one has gotten much further than the other. These are both from taxpayers accusing ATP of like doing a bait and switch. This is just more of the cash flow stuff. And before I get to that, I just wanted to point out here, look, this is what I was talking about earlier. There's not money to build extensions in this. Like there's no, y-axis or x-axis here, but all of this revenue, this cash flow is going to be dedicated to paying down debt or operating the system. And this little delta here between this line and the dotted rectangles is what the extra. This is another dude before we get to the lawsuits, I should say Dustin Burrows, Speaker of the Texas House, was elected with majority Democratic support. Like my understanding is most of the folks who voted for him were Democrats. And so there is, even though he's a very conservative Republican, and he was actually a co-author of the 2023 bill that would have prevented ATP from issuing bonds. But there is optimism among some Austin Democrats that, hey, we got you at the speaker's chair, bro. Why don't you do us a solid and not let this bill pass? I asked Troxclair about that, and she was like, no, he's a tax hawk. She didn't use the word tax hawk, but he's very fiscally conservative, and was a co-author of this legislation last time. She doesn't think that's going to happen. Texas legislature meets once every 2 years. The session began earlier this month, and so I guess we'll know by May or whatever what's going to happen next. Now, earlier this week, so the second one are those lawsuits I mentioned. The second threat, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is supporting the plaintiffs. That suit is before the Texas Supreme Court right now. And they're set to rule on whether a trial on the merits can even proceed. So that's going to take a while to resolve. One of the lawsuits kind of made it further along the way. The other lawsuit was somewhat dead in the water. I mean, the Travis County Judge Eric Shepard dismissed it with prejudice, but Bill Ailshire, the lead attorney on that, says he's going to ask the judge to reconsider because from his perspective, it's a valid argument, although he does acknowledge it is somewhat novel. So we'll see how those proceed. And the third threat, I'm going to let you guess what it might be. Take a guess. Number 3, to Austin's light rail plan. I think possibly the Trump administration could not release federal funds. I mean, this project counts on the feds to foot up to half the bill, as we can see back here on this slide. You can see, this is the federal funding, and this is the debt funding. And this is sort of pay as you go. Prop A funds doing whatever. So I was actually earlier this week at an ATP open house, and I spoke with Jennifer Pine and Lindsay Wood. They are both high-level executives. They're executive vice presidents, I believe they're called, at ATP, top officials there. And so I asked them about the pause on federal grants that happened earlier this week that was then lifted temporarily by a judge. And then the Trump administration rescinded the memo from the OMB, but said the executive order remains in place, but it's being stayed. So it's kind of confusing, and it's caused a lot of chaos for folks. But here's what Jennifer Pine and Lindsay Wood said about the Trump administration. Let's take a look.
So, we're actively working with the Federal Transit Administration right now. We're in the pipeline, but our grant process takes a couple of years. So any freeze like that doesn't have any impact on our work right now. We're not relying on federal funds for this work to advance the project.
Right, so you're good for now. Any indication whether the Trump administration would be, or an FTA under the Trump administration would, be more or less favorable to a major infrastructure project like this in Austin?
So we're going to continue to work with the DOT and the FTA, of course, as we have been. And I'll say that, the New Starts grant program has been in place for decades, including through the last Trump administration and all the other administrations. So we anticipate we'll continue to work with the folks who are in office to continue to kind of further the cause of infrastructure.
And we see a lot of benefits of the light rail. In addition to the mobility choices that it gives people, it creates jobs. It brings federal dollars to Texas and into our local economy, and really boosts our entire city in helping us continue to grow.
All right, so there's that. Question. The answer to question number one, I think, three major challenges. The most immediate is probably the Texas legislature. All right, question number two from, I think it's Hulkamania. How much have we spent so far, and what has been accomplished with that spending? Excellent questions. And hey, you know what? I actually put this, I had an answer, but I did send this is one of the three questions I sent to the Austin Transit Partnership, because a lot of this info is in their budget docs, but I've not had time to fully go through and examine all of those. And I will say ATP's budget docs are not as detailed as Capital Metro or the City of Austin or other budget docs I would typically look at. So I did want to ask them, and I just got the email a couple minutes ago. And what would happen to light rail? Well, okay, so there's not an answer to that question. But I do have an answer to another one, which is what can people in Austin do to support light rail besides participating in the DEIS? So this is back to question one here. This is their answer from ATP. Beyond participating in the draft EIS process and submitting comments, Austinites can support the light rail initiative in several ways. Stay informed and share your excitement on social media. When you see conversations happening on social media, other forums, make it known you support light rail, blah, 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 and all that stuff. Number two, collaborate with advocacy groups, join or support transit advocacy organizations working to promote sustainable transportation solutions in Austin. They can provide resources and organize and so on. And then engage your community and advocate for light rail. Participate in local discussions, community meetings, and social conversations to show support for the project. So, get involved in your community is basically the answer there. So I just wanted to talk about this. Nope, we're on the wrong one here. Forgive me. Did I have a slideshow? So this is another image that I'm going to flip to next. This is the budget highlights from their FY25 budget. Just to give you so since the property tax has taken effect, they've collected almost $1 billion in revenue, and they. I don't know. I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head how much they have in reserve, how much of that they've spent, and how much they're holding for construction, because I know they are holding some of that money, basically accumulating it. So when they do start spending billions to build this system, that they'll have a bit of reserve. I hope that if ATP is watching, they will answer that first question that I sent them. But here's just a look at FY25. So, 193 million, 172 coming from that tax, 21 million coming from investment and other revenue, because when they do hold that money, I believe they're, putting it in stocks or whatever you do. And this kind of gives an idea of where this is going for this year. So for this year, of this 193 million, 123 million is going to what they call the Light Rail Capital Fund. And it's paying for administrative expenses, professional services, stuff like that, like, salaries, staff, consultants. And that is more than their staff. They spend more on consultants than they do on their staff. They've just issued a massive contract to AECOM for, I think, $98 million for up to 4 years. There's also, they do send some money to Capital Metro to pay for these transit lines that are being constructed. The Expo Center line, which would go from the Expo Center to downtown, and the Pleasant Valley line going from Southeast Austin to Northeast Austin. Again, they're testing the routes right now. They have buses on those routes right now. They're testing them out. They're going to launch service. This is supposed to be electric buses with service, peak hour service every 10 minutes. They're going to start with diesel buses with service every 20 to 30 minutes, I think. And then the end of line, like park and rides, aren't done yet. So again, that's behind schedule, but they do, they're sending $8 million to Cap Metro to help with that. But a lot of Cap Metro's funding is also coming from federal grants. And then they've got their anti-displacement funding, which is that $300 million I mentioned earlier. I believe they've already sent about half of that to because it's the city that does the anti-displacement stuff. And they're like buying properties. They're providing financial support to private and nonprofit developers to build affordable housing. And, they're doing marketing and stuff like that. This is that AECOM thing I was talking about. They call it their delivery partner. So helping them sort of get everything together, and then they're going to they still have to the project management, construction management team, but I believe they still need to actually hire a builder. They have another big contract to go out. So AECOM, they've been involved in lots of city projects, and they've been working with ATP for some time on a bunch of different stuff. So I'm sure they're familiar with the folks. They both know each other quite well. So let me just scroll down here. I had some notes just to make sure I hit on this. Oh yeah. So we've got the budget. AECOM, ATP sends money to Cap Metro. Those lines are delayed. Oh yeah, anti-displacement. I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I have not had as much time as I would have liked to cover the anti-displacement funds. It's kind of a housing story. It's kind of it is a transit story. I should talk to my colleague Audrey McGlinchey about that, because she is a fantastic housing reporter. But anti-displacement City of Austin Project Connect. So if we check out this site, we can see what they're saying their initiatives are, and they involve purchasing Access Anti-Displacement Dashboard. There was a website I was looking at. The city's website is so not fun to use. This is their dashboard too, using a bunch of demographic and other data to sort of identify where the highest risk displacement areas are around these. And the whole displacement thing is, when you build a transit stop and you build light rail, I mean, it's incentivizing people to use it. It's like sort of like doing a highway expansion. More people want to drive that highway because it's better. It's like it takes less time to get somewhere. More people move. I can move further out and get to work in 20 minutes. 5 years later, everyone else thought the same thing, is stuck in traffic, and it's taking them 40 minutes to get to work, or whatever the case may be. That phenomenon known as induced demand. Well, induced demand applies to transit as well. So if you build transit stops, I've seen this in Vancouver with the SkyTrain. Build the transit stop, and sorry, I just got a message from ATP. Breaking. Sorry, they did send me an answer. They just sent it by text message. Sorry, ATP, missed that. They're going to send it by email. But just to finish this thought, the philosophy behind anti-displacement is that rising property values will make it harder for folks to pay their property taxes if they're at risk of displacement near transit stops. You can see the highest risk areas here are in pink. And so and rents could go up because people want to live near the train stop if it goes fast, especially if it goes faster than traffic, which is the promise here, especially during rush hour. So the city of Austin, that was part of the rationale behind that $300 million. And let's see if I could find their initiatives. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I'm going to just take one last attempt here to find this. Okay, so here's their dashboard. Oh, yeah, this is what I was looking for. So the land development, 21, and again, I don't know how recently this has been updated, but these are the properties that the city has actually provided private and nonprofit developers with state tax incentives and bonds to, support the acquisition, rehabilitation, and construction of affordable housing. Land development. This is the land acquisition. These are these are other properties. The Austin Housing Finance Corporation acquired these multifamily properties to extend or preserve affordability along Project Connect lines. However, as critics point out, these properties are not near transit lines. I mean, they're not like 200 Woodward Street is not like, I guess, let's see. Yeah. So the transit line ends at Old Torf and Congress. So from here, you could theoretically walk to Old Torf and Congress. If you're living somewhere here, your rent goes up too high, you're displaced, maybe you could move here. I need to do more reporting on that, but that's the basic philosophy. They're saying, critics say these aren't near transit lines. What are you doing? The city says, well, we're there's going to be transit expansions. We're building along future transit lines. We're doing what we can do. And I'm taking a long time to answer these questions, but Hulkamania, I hope that gives you some idea. If you want any follow-up questions, this is going to be like a 10-hour live stream. Okay, sorry, we heard from that already. Let's go to question number 3 now. When can your average Austinite expect to step onto a light rail car? An honest timeline that's realistic. Well, that's a great question. This was the recommended program sequence. This was before the first phase, as they call it, or the initial investment was renamed the first phase and switched from 20.2 miles to 9.8 miles. Orange line, I'm sorry. You can see here, it's about a 9-year. I should show you the legend. This is sort of where we are now. We're in the NEPA phase. So this is the old one. But I mean, to answer your question, they're talking about 2033 is the date. This is the year they've put out there. 2033 is when you will be able to ride light rail in Austin, with construction starting in 2027. And I think I've been asked an honest timeline that's realistic. Will it be in 2033? Will it be later than that? I would say, the project was already delayed once. Look at Capital Metro's rapid service. The Expo Center and Pleasant Valley lines were supposed to launch in 2023. They were pushed back to 2025, now 2026 for full service. In my experience reporting on local government, things often do not run on time, but it's also very difficult to fact check that 2033 date. It is so far away. There are so many unknowns, but that's what they put out there for now. And granted, it's an estimate. This is a huge project. They can't say 100% for sure. I hope that if this is their estimate, that they're doing what TxDOT often does, actually, which is they'll sort of give themselves extra time, and then they can come in and say, hey, we've over-delivered. Is the stream still working? Looks frozen over here. Hopefully you can still, it's working on there. All right. So anyway, back to ATP. I want to give them their fair shot here because they did answer my question. How much have they, to the prior question, how much money have they collected and what have they done with it? So this is the answer. As it relates to Austin Light Rail cost, of the total cost incurred for light rail through 2024, about $240 million, 87% of those costs have gone to business partners in and around the area to help advance the project. So I think that this is consultants and contractors. So the work included advancing the multi-year design and engineering work, environmental analysis, and advancing the project through the federal funding and environmental review processes. I will say this DEI process is a massive, very expensive undertaking that requires a lot of work. Again, 16,000 pages. That's a lot of work. To put all of that together involves a lot of study. Let's see, other services to support the development of the delivery strategy. They're saying this is what your tax dollars have bought so far. Financial planning, procurement, contract administration of ATP partners. The other 13% of cost through the same period can be attributed to ATP's agency-related cost to help ATP administer the program on the public's behalf, including benefits and wages. So sometimes I have to translate this. The same period can be agency-related costs to help ATP administer the program on the public's behalf. I think that's just a long way of saying salaries. So that's ATP's response. I would, if you're really curious, they do post their budgets on their website, as I showed you some of those slides. And you can always file public information requests to learn more. And if you want to know how to do that, I'm happy to help you. But you can just Google like ATP public information request, and they have a portal. In fact, let's just do it right now so I can just show you, because, you teach someone to fish and they'll feed themselves forever. So you just Google like ATP public records search, or public information request, and boom, you go to the block. Where do they put it? Of course, it's difficult to find because there's so many of these. Do Austin Transit Partnership public information request. Here it is. It's this. A lot of government agencies use this website. It's GovQA. Like the city of Austin uses it. And so this is where you go. You just create an account, sign in. I wonder if I can log into mine now and just show you. No, I don't have this login saved here. And then it's really easy. Like you just submit it. You just click public information request. A little box opens. And you just type what you want. You don't need any law degree. You don't need to be an expert in anything. Just say, this is what I want. Now, keep in mind, when you file these public information requests, you can't ask them to do the research for you. You are requesting specific documents that already exist. And they don't have to release everything to you. As anyone who's been through this before knows very well, there's a lot of exemptions in state law, and they can basically say, we're not going to release this to you because of this exemption in state law. And they send that to the Texas Attorney General's office, who makes a ruling. And I won a couple of those rulings with Capital Metro. I don't know that I have with ATP. I can't remember because I file so many information requests. But there you go, if you want to know more. Okay, let's move on to question number 4 here from M. Volling on our AMA for the R Austin subreddit. Go ahead. And by the way, after this, I'm going to be answering more questions in text format, should they exist, and anything I can't get to or didn't get to. So after this live stream ends in February, I should be getting to that. All right. So is it likely the federal government's grant and loan funding pause put the project in jeopardy? This is a great question. It's something I wondered a lot as I asked the ATP folks. In that video we showed, when this question was posted, the Trump administration had not yet rescinded that memo from the OMB, and the federal judge had not put a stay on the freeze of grants and stuff. We still don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, the only thing we know is we don't know. It's a known unknown. But here is a known. I ran that clip of Jennifer Pine saying, they won't be applying for any grants. But ATP is definitely being, they're being more tight-lipped about this. I wanted to show you, check out this news story in the Long Beach Press-Telegram from earlier this month. I got it here in my Adobe Acrobat. And this is LA Metro concerned about Trump administration nixing funds for key rail projects. So they're actually, saying this out loud. I would not be surprised if this were being said. This is by Steve Scazio. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Steve. But he wrote this story, and there's a quote in here. So this is from. So basically, this is the meeting of the Gateway Cities Council of Governments, and LA Metro's Deputy Executive Officer for Government Relations said a newly Republican-controlled Senate, including chairs of the transportation committees, as well as new personnel appointed by Trump to run the Federal Transit Administration, could stymie federal transit dollars. And the guy he's quoting is Hamparian, who, forgive me, I don't know who that is, and I don't see his name mentioned earlier in the story, but maybe this didn't print. Oh yeah, there we go, Rafi Hamparian, sorry. So this is the LA Metro's Deputy Executive Officer for Government Relations. He's like the guy who, government relations. They're like, okay, they're the guys who go, okay, what's happening with, federal government, state government, blah, 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 all these different levels of government. He said, we've got our radar up. We may initially have some challenges with some of the new folks who will take senior positions at the White House and at the U.S. Department of Transportation. And so Metro in LA is looking for funding from the Federal New Starts program, part of the federal 2026 budget. And they're looking at stake is the longstanding capital investment grant program, which funnels money for transportation projects through the FTA and the White House for capital projects planned by transit agencies. And then, so in this report, they're saying in the first administration from in the first Trump administration, Trump tried to kill the federal CIG program. That effort did not succeed. So will that be attempted again? I don't know. But it's definitely something we want to keep an eye on. I went back and pulled a clip from the November meeting of the ATP board, which, we've talked about how the ATP board is a really important government body that does not get nearly enough attention or nearly enough scrutiny. And part of that is my fault because I'm dealing with so many stories. I have not been able to follow every single meeting. I wish I could. I'm dealing also with I-35 and airport stuff and life and everything else. But just let me play you this 3-minute clip. This is board member John Langmore, who I mentioned he declined to seek a new term of his post, saying it wasn't a good fit. I did file a public information request to get that memo that he sent. A bit of backstory here before we play this cut, because I think it's important to understand the politics of the ATP board, as obscure as that sounds. Because Langmore, he was the finance expert on the board. There's the community expert. And so he was the finance expert. He's a local attorney. He, a long time ago, was on the Cap Metro board. He does all kinds of stuff. He helped Travis County put together its bond package for roads and parks that got approved in the November election. So he was like the only board member, when you watch these meetings, he was the only board member who would really press staff on questions. And his predecessor, Tony Elkins, was also the only one to really ask tough questions of board members. And Elkins also left the board, somewhat in frustration, it seemed. And so, Langmore's memo, it would take me a second to find it. I have it on my computer. Maybe I'll find it while this clip is playing. I kind of get the same vibe. That maybe, we'll wait. I'll play you the clip and then I'll show you the memo. But there does seem to be somewhat of a trend here where at least two people, well, maybe three is a trend and two is like a hypothesis, but two of the people who asked tough questions to the ATP board both left the ATP board. But he did raise this issue in November. And at the end of this clip, another board member is basically telling Langmore, hey, let's not talk about this stuff. But let's play this clip. It actually starts with Jennifer Pine, who we heard from already, the executive VP, answering Langmore's question about what the new Trump administration means for light rail. And again, they kind of speak in government talk, so I'll try to translate on the other side. But just listen for any doubt that ATP will get the money. And it might be hard to find any doubt. So check this out.
We know there'll be a change in administration. And so one thing, there's a lot we don't know about, what certain appointments will be. However, we do know that there'll be a change in personnel like there is any time an administration changes. And so that might just create a little bit of, delay in some things next year, I can imagine. But overall, we're not expecting changes in the substance of how the program is deployed, at FTA. And so the entry to engineering point, which would be a couple of years from now, that's the point at which we agree with FTA on the level of federal participation, what the grant amount would be. So a lot of the readiness work and the development of the cost and the project and the associated cost and schedule that we'll be doing is to inform, that decision point in a couple of years. So it's completely reasonable, and we expect that a full funding grant agreement would be more of a 2027 type timeframe.
Got it. That's what I thought based on all of our previous discussions.
That's John Langmore.
Does the FTA get a big pot of money when isn't the transportation bill like a multi-year transportation bill going to be passed in 25? Well, knock on wood, going to be passed. But it's up to be reauthorized in 25. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And the FTA, does the way that, you're going to have to remind me, there was a point in time, back in our Cap Metro days, I would have known some of this, but they get a certain pot of money that then becomes competitive for all of the transit projects around the country, and that's subject to what Congress decides when they reauthorize the transportation bill? So
we would look for kind of continuing funding for these projects, but then the FTA will recommend projects for funding, and there is a congressional appropriation, stage. So there's a number of different steps to it. Okay. So for us, we'd be looking in a few years to kind of put that puzzle together. Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
And just
regarding the incoming administration, I'd rather not get into that. If you want to talk about different scenarios, absolutely, but guessing what may or may not happen, depending on who's there, to me doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, to me, I just want to understand the process itself, to understand what, how it works.
All right, so that's the cut there. And basically what you heard was they won't be looking for the grant for a couple years. Langmore says, well, the transportation funding bill needs to be renewed this year. And Jennifer Pine says, the FTA will recommend projects for funding. Congress has to appropriate that funding, so they'll be looking in a few years to figure that out. And, things could change, or maybe not. Maybe they won't change. But board member Juan Garza says, why ask these questions when we don't know the answer? And I think the translation is maybe like, do we need to can we fly below the radar here? And Langmore's like, well, I just want to understand. So I found the memo of the email that he sent to the board chair and Greg Canale, who's the executive director of the Austin Transit Partnership. It's polite. It's very formal. And so he wanted to let them know he's not going to be seeking a replacement for his board seat, wanted to give them a lot of time to find a replacement. He'll be serving out his term, blah, 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 blah. The money quote is, while I deeply admire the respect the team you've assembled to deliver Project Connect, I simply couldn't find my place as a board member. And it looks like, has this been flattened? There's no tech. I don't know why I can't highlight any of this, but I simply couldn't find my place as a board member. It won't be the first time my style wasn't a fit for an organization. For me to remain on the board would be a disservice both to myself and ATP. So I think what's going, culturally it didn't fit. And he's the guy asking tough questions. And he said, I couldn't find my place. It wasn't a fit. We don't know what goes on in executive session, what kind of conversations they have. That's what we know. And this was acquired through a public information request. And this is another thing that almost did a story on this, but it's like ATP board soap opera. We know how much interest there is? Maybe you can let me know. Let me know in the chat. So that's M. Volling. That's a great question. Great question, M. Volling. So that was question 4. Let's move on to our 5th question. Was this the 5th question? Yeah, here we go. Why does every light rail plan always stop short of... The airport. Everyone always wants to talk about the airport. And I totally get why. You want to take the rail to the airport, you don't want to have to pay for parking. You don't want to have to pay for an Uber. The airport bus, they do have the airport flyer. It's the world's best airport flyer. I don't think so, but it does do the job. But light rail would be a lot better. I mean, let's check this out. This is the rendering of what it would look like. This was prior to the plan being shrunk to half size. I should say the first phase want to be careful there. I don't want to, make anyone irate. The first phase, which is the only phase for which funding is identified for construction. This is one of those beautiful renderings they were showing us. And by the way, the airport is building another parking garage, and they are leaving space for this station. If you're familiar with the airport, I believe this is where there's that piece of art of like really interesting like sculpture next to the rental car garage. And so this would come right through, and like here's like another rendering of a transit stop. You just hop off the train and drag your roller board suitcase, whatever those are called, to your flight, and yeah, it's so easy. And this is where it would have gone from all the way from Riverside Drive, Montopolis Station, Faro Station. By the way, this Faro Station, they want to move this to Grove, so there would be no station at Faro, but there would be one at Grove, closer to ACC Riverside here. And all the way to the airport. This is what we got now. Faro, again, they want to change that. Montopolis, and stopping at Yellow Jacket Lane, which would kind of look like this. This is the Yellow Jacket station. Not a super, not like a super busy place. I mean, Yellow Jacket Lane has I was there just checking it out, like what's around here. Can't fly a drone around there because it's too close to the airport, but there is an interesting like food truck and restaurant stuff here. I imagine if this Yellow Jacket station, if this is here, there's probably going to be a lot, I would assume, more stuff built up. But right now, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's like a destination, a place where people are flocking on like Friday nights or anything like that, but it's the end of the line. And then the line, this up here is it going to their operations and maintenance facility. This is a priority extension, though, as I talked about earlier. This means that they do really, 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 really want to build it. Why do they not do that? Well, they had to make the line shorter because they didn't have enough money to build what they said they were going to build before the election, at least not in the first phase. So let's take a look at the ridership estimates. You can find this on ATP's website. It's like they have a bunch of FAQs of like finance. This is their ridership FAQ, and the bigger the ball, the more people are going to get on that station. So this was when they were considering like 5 different plans, and you can see them up top here. With 5 different, because they were like, okay, we have to make this smaller, but we want to go to the public and find out what you really want. And so these are the different 5 plans here, and the one they went with was 38th to Oltorf to Yellow Jacket. And I can see why. There's a lot of reasons why they would do this. One of the ones is, look at airport here. Look how tiny this little circle is. I mean, they're talking about, this is in the year 2040, they're projecting like less than 1,600 trips a day from the airport, which sounds like a lot, but then compare it to, somewhere like UT up here. We're looking at more than 6,000. And look at this, Crestview, where they did not build to. Also, that would be one of the, if not the largest, the most busy transit station in the entire system if they had built this far. But that's just a priority extension, like the one to the airport. I will say this about the airport extension. I will say this about it. I understand there is low ridership. There is immense political support for it. This is their engagement report after they went to the public with these 5 plans, and they asked everyone what they thought, and then they compiled what everyone thought into a report. And if you just go through this, you can see top themes: airport connectivity. This is broken down by demographics, but basically for self-identified Black, Indigenous, people of color participants, access, airport connectivity, cost, and ridership. From self-identified low incomes residents, the top theme was the airport. From current transit rider participants, one of the top themes was the airport. The airport, the airport, the airport. Everyone, I'm saying airport a lot because I always get asked about this. I'm sure ATP does all the time as well. And there was a question earlier in the chat about, and I refreshed my Restream page here, so I lost those. But maybe I can bring up the YouTube. And does it save the chat? Yeah, it does. So I don't want to play my chat back to you. All right. Well, I can't find it right now. But someone had asked, what is the city doing to increase the perception of this, to sort of help with the PR? I mean, they're doing a lot. They've hired ECPR to help them. They've hired two public relations firms, Bowie and ECPR, who definitely try and shape public opinion and shape news coverage. And that's their job. And, you know, they're successful PR firms, and they work hard at that, and they're pretty good at their jobs. Okay, sorry. This is from Bosco the Savage. I found the chat, y'all. What is the city's strategy for managing perception of the project? Is it influencing how they build it? So I just wanted to ask, I wanted to bring that up because when you look at the map, right, which I had right here, it goes down to Oltorf, right? It goes down to Oltorf. And I know a lot of people, look, I'm a South Austinite. I understand why Oltorf would be an important destination. But then when you look at this, you know, Oltorf, like it's a tiny little green dot. If they were trying to maximize ridership, maybe they would do this one. But then you don't get anything. North Lamar Transit Center to Pleasant Valley, you don't go to Oltorf. You don't go to SoCo. And I wonder, and the question has been asked, how much, you know, building like citywide support for this, if you don't have anything at all in South Austin, what the impact would be on public support for this map. I think it's a good question because the ridership from Crestview, according to ATP, would have been much greater. But at the same time, ridership isn't the only thing they have to think about here. They also have to think about, you know, as you put it, public support. All right, let's move on to question 6. This is fun. I hope you guys are having fun. I'm really enjoying talking with y'all, and I want to do more of these. And so, you know, like, subscribe. Let's see if we're going to take a like, subscribe break here. Ooh, I got 33 subscribers on my YouTube. 34. Wow. Okay, let's see who'll be number 35. And only 3 likes. What? Come on. Well, people are watching this on the YouTube channel as well. So, sorry, on KUT's YouTube. I got a lot of stuff going on in my head, like 4 screens open in front of me, 5 if you include ATXN, which I got on computer here. So I'm sorry if my wires get crossed from time to time, but I'm having a lot of fun, and I hope you are too. Now, let's keep going. Also, you know, I brought a Diet Dr. Pepper with me, and if I want to go real buck wild here, I might crack this, have a sip, but I'm a little worried about the carbonation affecting my ability to speak politely, we shall say. All right. Austin subreddit AMA 2025 light rail. Let's get it going. Question number 5. I'm going to make a comment, says, great username. Thanks for doing this. I have a few questions off the top of my head. What's the literal earliest I'll be able to ride a new rail line from Project Connect if everything goes perfectly? Kind of answered that one already. What's the cost per mile of this project? And what will happen if there are no federal funds matching for PC? Okay, so we kind of got to 1 and 3. Let's talk about number 2. What is the cost per mile of this project? So it is, before I show you that slide, I just wanted to tell you, this is, you know, rough. Let's do the rough math. So 7.1 billion, including inflation, 9.8 miles. So just for simple math, let's just say 7 billion and 10 miles, just to make the math easier. That's $700 million per mile if you just do that simple little math right there. So how does that compare with other transit systems? Well, you know what we're going to do is, I think there might be a dog pushing at my door. So I apologize if any dogs come in here. Actually, that might boost the numbers on this stream. So maybe I should let him in. Let's see. I just don't want him to bark at you. Just kidding. He can't see you. Oh, by the way, Miles Chick just asked when this is going to be done. 2033 is when they're saying you'll be able to hop on this train. But let's get to this question from, I'm going to make a comment. Question number 6. $700 million a mile. Now, how does that compare with other transit systems? Is that a lot? Is that a little? Is that great? Is that a good deal? Is that a bad deal? Well, okay, so with the caveat that $700 million a mile figure includes buying all the trains and building the operations and maintenance facility. We're going to get to that, but I just want to bring you to this site right here, transitcosts.com. It's a very interesting site. It's a project by some professional researchers, and I just so you know where this is coming from. I always want to know where my data is coming from. Ideally, who's paying. You always got to ask. Anytime you hear an expert on the radio, who's paying them? Anytime you read anything, who's paying them? So this is the NYU's Marin Institute of Urban Management, and they have researchers around the globe. I think it's a really, really interesting site and very simple. But like if we just look at projects, click on projects, and we have all the projects they're tracking here. And let's do 100 per page. And now they're doing cost per kilometer. So we're going to have to translate our Project Connect Austin Light Rail system into cost per kilometer. So 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometers or kilometer, as I was trained to say in Canada. I'm Canadian, and we use the metric system there for some crazy reason. So this would be about one mile is 1.6 kilometers. This is about a 16-kilometer system. 7 billion divided by 16 kilometers, about 438 million per kilometer. $438 million per kilometer. This is very rough math. We're just like spitballing this. Let's compare with other systems. And by the way, look at this tunnel percentage 100%. So you got to consider that. Our tunnel percentage is 0%, while the earlier plans had called for a greater tunnel percentage. We're currently at 0. So tunnels are very expensive to build. If you look at this project, we're talking almost, what is that? 4 billion a mile. That's in New York City. Hong Kong, we get to our first 0%. We're looking at 800 million a mile. That's kind of an outlier, as is the Shanghai extension. 700 million a kilometer, 700 million a kilometer. Our cost, remember, is 438. Cairo, and you can click on these and they have more info about each line, like when it started, the total length, has a little map. Very useful site if you really want to dig into this. Again, we're kind of like looking at some of the outliers here, 100%, 100%, 100%. This one's in Saudi Arabia. We're at 519 million per kilometer, going down. Here, Sao Paulo, 388. That's less than where we were. And we could just keep going down. Let's get, so you can see, basically what I'm trying to get at is, it's not off the charts, but it is relatively high. So I asked Lindsay Wood about this at the open house this week, and so here's what she had to say about it. So you take 7 billion, divide by 10, that's 700 million a mile. Why is it so expensive?
I think first let's tackle that it's not really 700 million a mile. There are elements of the project cost that make sense in a per mile calculation, like what you're really building and the tracks and the streets and the sidewalks. But there are elements of the project that are a one-time investment only applicable to a starter system, like the maintenance facility and buying the trains themselves. And when you compare to other light rail projects in the United States that are either current or recent, they aren't starter systems. So it's apples and oranges when comparing the two. There's also differences in the cities themselves. We're building not only light rail and of course providing that mobility option, but improving mobility for moving by all modes in these corridors and building miles of sidewalks and improved bikeways and improving the safety and comfort of how you get to not only the light rail system, but other origins and destinations by adding shade along the corridors. And then last, I would note that every city is a little different in terms of how wide their streets are. And when you have much wider streets, you don't necessarily need to rebuild the full streetscape or relocate utilities. And in our case, we're in a very dense urban environment, and in some cases in narrow streets, and have a lot of utility projects that come along with the light rail too.
Okay, so that's her explanation. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and this is what I want to show you, right? So let's look at this. This is from their finance FAQ that's on their website that came out in 2023. This is posted, but she advised me to go look at this to get a better breakdown. And so again, they have like the five options up top. If we do this, they're doing 38th Oltorf to Yellow Jacket. So maintenance facility and vehicles, 1 billion. Now this is not the number that includes inflation. So again, we're going to use round numbers here. So basically, off this, knock off maybe 20%. This is probably driving anyone who works in transit finance insane because I'm just like smashing through here like the Kool-Aid man. But, let's just knock 20% off. Then we're looking at about $350 million a kilometer. Go back to transit costs .com. And we go down to $350 million a kilometer. What are we looking at? See, a lot of these ones that are $350 million a kilometer, they're like still. Some of them are like Dhaka is all at grade. Looks like rather central part of the city. Of course, it's again, it is kind of apples and oranges, like completely different economy. But they're going through the central part of the city, and that is very similar in cost. So again. Not to belabor this, but it is a lot. It is relatively high. It is not completely off the charts. And there's another thing to consider about light rail, and that is the operating costs tend to be a little bit lower than buses once it's all installed. And so I wanted to show you this from the National Transit Database, which is a federal agency. Sorry, one sec. National Transit Database is a federal agency, puts out these annual reports. Most recent I could find was 2023 about what's we looking at here. These are operating expenses per passenger mile traveled, which I was talking about a bit earlier. Light rail is, while it is way more expensive per mile than bus. I compared it to if you compare it to the bus rapid transit lines per mile, I calculated something like 200 times more expensive. It is a much better service relative to bus in terms of like passenger experience, customer experience. Although the ATP folks are difficult to get them to talk smack about buses because it is part of the network. It's part of the whole transit network. But anyway, I digress. The operating expense per passenger mile traveled by selected mode is lower than bus, a little bit lower than bus. So in the long run, maybe you'll save some money. And if you can get, I think the main reason for this per passenger mile traveled, which is a great metric, not the only metric though, but it's a good one because it includes the distance of the trip, not just, and it includes, sorry, I'm getting a message here about, I hope you can't hear my dog barking in the background too much. If so, I might have to go get him and bring him in here. So anyway, this is a long live stream. I'm nowhere near being done. So you can always come back or listen to the audio. But anyway, it is more cost effective when you look at it that way. But you really have to weigh, like, do you want to have a higher quality, more frequent ride that costs a hell of a lot more to build, and maybe you save some money in operations, or do you want to just do a ton of buses that are going everywhere and you're rattling around on that bus that's hitting potholes and stuff? Again, I used transit exclusively until I was like 26. I didn't even get my driver's license until I moved to the U.S. Everywhere I lived had great transit. And so I speak from experience here, even though I don't really ride the bus a lot these days. I have kids. The bus doesn't really go where I need to go and the time that I need to be there. And kids need to be picked up daycare in an emergency. I got to be there within an hour or they charge an arm and a leg. So enough about me. I'm going to go, if you'll pause for just 1 second, I want to get my dog because he's barking his brains out. And I think I want to introduce him to you. Okay. His name is Frankie. Stay right here. I'm going to be back in like 30 seconds. Take a sip of Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm going to crack, it's getting wild now here. I'm cracking the Diet Dr. Pepper. Tastes like sugar-free Texas. I'm going to go get him. Okay, I don't know if Frankie, come here. I want to introduce you to some folks. Hey, Mike. Here, buddy. This is Frankie. Say hi, Frankie. Good boy. He's an old pup. Oh, he's got that thing on because he doesn't have much fur, so he's got to stay warm. But anyway, he's getting warm in here. He's 10. No, he's 12 now. This year in March he'll be 12. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. Let's go to the next question. Flabos 44 asks, is there any risk that funding the Cap and Stitch project could prevent or at least delay the funding of light rail? I'm personally in favor of both projects, but I would much prefer to secure the light rail project over the Cap and Stitch if we can't get both. Flabos 44, great question. Another good one. Well, the short answer is no, but. If you're unfamiliar with Cap and Stitch, it's basically, this is Clyde Warren Park in Dallas. This is what they want to do in Austin because TxDOT is going to lower I-35 as part of the expansion project that's already getting underway. Up to 10 years of construction. But from basically Holly to airport, they want to lower the highway, the main lanes of the highway up to 40 feet below ground level. And that would enable the city to pay for putting these things, something like this on top. So here's a rendering of what it could look like sort of around the Riverside Drive area. This is like 6th Street. Hey, there's the red line going by. And this will happen no matter what. I mean, the red line is going to go over the interstate because what else is going to do? This is also a massive project for the city of Austin that would, if it actually happens, completely transform what downtown looks like, but very expensive, very, very expensive. These are where they would go. These are where the caps would go. So it's not like the whole length of the interstate, but basically, UT is planning its own, so that's a whole separate question. UT is doing that all by themselves from 15th to Dean Keaton, basically connecting East and West Campus. And then here, a little one between 11th and 12th, and then basically from 7th to Holly. And I don't know if they want to do this one anymore. Essentially what's happening right now with this Cap and Stitch project is the city council thought it had until December to decide where to put the support structures to hold up the caps. And it's a really important decision. It is the decision because wherever they put the support structures, they could build caps in the future. Wherever they don't put the support structures, they can't do anything for like 50 years, which is a very long time. So the deadline was December, but it was pushed back to March. TxDOT said, actually, because of some other reasons, blah, 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 you have till March. So I'm going to be following that. This is a huge thing for the city of Austin. So will funding for this affect light rail? Light rail is mainly funded by two sources. About half from the Prop A property tax that we talked about, and then up to half from the federal government. So those are totally different funding sources than this. This would come from a mix of funding sources, federal grants, different grants. I mean, I guess it's possible that but not from the FTA, right? It's not like the Federal Transit Administration is funding highway caps. There's a state infrastructure bank loan, which they applied for, and I believe they received the state infrastructure bank loan. It's basically a TxDOT bank that lends money to cities that want to do stuff. And public-private partnerships, like this one in man, I could just talk all day about transportation stuff, but I just want to show you Clyde. This is very illustrative. Clyde Warren Park map. When you go to Clyde Warren Park, which is this place, everything is named after a rich person. Everything is named after a rich person because that's how they paid for it. So, like, let me just flip back to Firefox here. This is the map of Clyde Warren Park. By the way, I had a great time there. It was super hot that day, and mind you, I was wearing shorts and a short sleeve button up shirt, but it was very shaded, comfortable. They had misters, they had water fountains. I have a whole story about Clyde Warren Park. You can find it KUT.org. But so these are all the different locations, like the Ginsburg family Great Lawn, the Sowden family Pavilion, Sheila and Jody Grant's Children Park. As you can see, Nancy Best Fountain. Everything is sort of named after a wealthy person or a wealthy person who donated on behalf of another person who is typically another wealthy person. So that's one of the funding plans for the city of Austin. Let's go back in our slideshow here. Sorry, I wanted to go back to this one. Philanthropy. That's what they're talking about there. Philanthropy. Get your name on something. I've asked them, like, what if they call it the Elon Musk? He is the wealthiest person in the world, and he lives in the area. Would they name it after? Well, you could have the Elon Musk Great Lawn. I don't know how well that would go over in a city of Austin's political constituency. But hey, it could happen if money is money, which money is money after all. So they're just talking about all of these. We could use the money for this. If we had the state infrastructure bank loan, we could use it for infrastructure, but we can't use it for operating expenses. Because mind you, on top of the cost of building all of this stuff, which is over $1 billion, there would be also 40 to 50 million a year or something in maintenance and operations. Like the one in Dallas is privately run by a nonprofit, basically. It's called the Woodall Rogers Foundation or something. And so, that's another consideration. They could also charge fees, lease fees if they have buildings on this, which is the plan, tax increment financing, which I won't get into right now. So, anyway, the long way of answering this question. It's totally different sources of money. But asterisk caveat, if the Texas legislature, as we discussed earlier, passes Ellen Troxclair or Paul Betancourt's legislation that would prohibit local government corporations, that would basically make it hard for ATP to issue bonds, then the city might want to hold a bond election to pay for light rail. They might want to do that, and if they did that, then it would be competing directly with funding for the Cap and Stitch project, because one of their considerations is to do a bond election. And they're actually already planning that. You can see here for the amenities, $41 million. But I think the bond election, I forget what it was. I wrote a story on it. I can't remember every detail. But it would be competing directly in a bond election. And they're planning this bond election for 2026. And, the top finance people at the city, I was watching this meeting, they were telling city council, like, hey, if we do this bond election for the caps and it passes, it's going to limit what we can do with, they can only borrow so much money. Before their debt rating goes up, or it goes down rather, and then the more risk, when their debt rating goes down, it's more considered more risky, and the more risk involved in any loan, the higher the interest rate. It's a complicated, interactive set of. Sorry, I'm just going to tell my wife that I brought the Frankie into my room. I brought him in my room. I can't talk and type at the same time. So, hope that answers your question. No, probably not, but maybe. Question 8. Is there any evidence that Cap Metro folks intentionally misrepresented the cost of the project to get it passed? Setting aside things that get more expensive over time, it doesn't seem to be even close to in the right ballpark. That is a very good question. I have no evidence that there was any intentional misrepresentation by Capital Metro. I have tried to find it. I have spoken with people who were close to the process, who had prior to the election, when this was being put to the public, who were a little concerned that expectations were being set too high. That concern existed. That, wait, is Cap Metro overpromising here? That concern did exist, but I have no evidence that it was intentional, there was anything nefarious going on. If you know of anything, please tell me. If you're watching this and you're like, Nathan, you're missing out this thing, missing out that thing. If you know of anything intentional, my email address is nathan@kut.org. But I will say, yeah, the cost increases were not all inflation related. It's interesting, I've heard public statements from ATP or just conversations with officials where they cite inflation as the reason why this had to be reduced. Let's go to, well, it's deep into this DEIS, past page 16,000, is an admission that, in fact, it was the tunnel. It was mainly the tunnel. They totally underestimated how much this tunnel, how long it would have to be, and they also, by throwing in all this other stuff, like that's one of the things that was making people nervous at the time. Well, especially, when the Capital Metro, under then CEO Randy Clark, who's now leads the transit system in DC, was saying, yeah, we're going to have an underground mall, and we're going to have this, and we're going to have that. People were like, whoa, 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 So I don't know. Great question. I would love to know the answer to it. Right now, I'm going to say no, because I don't have any evidence that there was any intentional misrepresentation whatsoever. But, as a reporter, I gotta ask these questions, gotta think about these questions, even if there was no intentional misrepresentation, I still gotta wonder about that and ask about it. And that's important for us to do these kinds of things, to remain skeptical and to ask those kinds of questions. All right, question 9. This is the last question I'm gonna answer on the live stream. I'm gonna get into, I'm gonna get into more, I can answer more like on the AMA, and I'll try and hit up some of these questions in the chat, but this is the last one where I've actually prepared some visuals. But I can always go back to the PDFs and website and stuff. How does this latest project's cost jive with people? This is from Kabuki Kazuki. How does this latest project's cost jive with people increasingly refusing to use public transportation? Loss of Austin ridership? Well, so the whole point of this is to increase transit use. In fact, in this DEIS here, the draft environmental impact statement, see if I can just find it. They're saying that the light rail would connect to Cap Metro bus. So they're expecting nearly 29,000 trips would be made on the light rail each weekday, with more than 40% of the trips new to transit. It's not outrageous to think that light rail will draw a lot of people to transit who don't need to use it, because it's just objectively better in most circumstances, maybe not all. Everywhere I've lived, just from my personal experience, it's always better. It's always just more enjoyable to take a rail than a bus. Not to say buses aren't important. They provide a very essential service at a much lower startup cost. But it could boost transit ridership. And there's one other thing I did want to show you, Kabuki Kazuki, which is the ridership dashboard for Capital Metro, because this shows us something kind of interesting about what's happening with Capital Metro right now. This is something you can just go and find yourself, although you kind of have to do a couple clicks because the Google result doesn't take you right to it. But this is data on Capital Metro's site about who's riding the bus, what routes are they taking, when are they taking them, are they riding the bus, are they riding the train? If you're ever curious, go to this website, capmetro.org/about/performance-dashboard, or just Google, Cap Metro dashboard. Now, if you look at monthly boardings, we're looking at 26 million rides over the past 12 months. And I did the math. That's about 70,000 boardings a day. So that doesn't count, like if someone's taking 3 buses to get somewhere, that'll count them. They won't count 1 trip. It'll count 3 boardings. It's easier for them to do that because they can't always tell, like, when someone's getting on a bus. Were they on the last bus, like without some kind of facial recognition? Or maybe, with the new payment system, they'll be able to do that a little better because they're starting tap to pay. But you can see here, so this line is 2022, this line is 2023, this line is 2024, and you can kind of see this, this trend here, up, 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 up. It's been going up the last 3 years. It's been going up. It is not at pre-pandemic levels yet. Last I checked, it was around 80%, and I don't know if that's still accurate, but it's probably like a bit above or a bit below 80%, somewhere in that range. But it is going up. More people are riding the bus. More people are using transit in Austin. So perhaps, on this trajectory, more people would use transit. And the other factor to consider is if you have all of these people suddenly taking light rail who are new to transit, it's not going to take them exactly where they want to go. They may have to take a bus, so that could increase bus ridership as well. Wow, that was so much fun. I'm not done yet, though. I hope that my my editors don't kill me for going well over. We had talked about doing 30 minutes, but I got a lot to get to here, and people are still watching. So I just wanted to do one last thing while my voice is still working. I wanted to do a walkthrough of this system. What is happening? What is actually happening on the street? What would light rail bring if this actually gets built? If it survives the Texas legislature and survives the lawsuit and survives, the Trump administration funds this, what would happen on Austin streets? I think that is one of the most important questions. So this is divided into different sections, and we're going to start here up north at 38th Street. So now you can look at these docs yourself. Again, they're on the website of the Austin Transit Partnership where I showed you at the very beginning. You can just go here, and what I'm about to show you are these two. And we might just zip through them a little fast, but I did want to get to that because I don't know. I think it's relevant, and it'll be somewhat helpful for me too, just to remind me of everything. So one of the things I've done here is I have, okay, those aren't open, so I'm just going to open it on the website. One of the things sorry, you're not looking at the website. One of the things I've done is I've actually gone, so the Austin Transit Partnership is not required to state which businesses and homes would be displaced, specifically the addresses. But they do provide a count in their draft environmental impact statement because they have to talk about the effect of this. And this is their acquisitions and displacements technical report. I went through so many pages looking for a list of properties because TxDOT does that. They did that with the I-35 project. They listed the specific properties that would be displaced. This walkthrough, by the way, is not just about displacements. I want to talk about what actually is happening, but I bring this up for an important reason. Because they wouldn't tell us which properties are being displaced, but they show it in the map. It's public information. You just have to take the TCAD ID and put it in the Travis County Central Appraisal District's website to find out who owns the property and what it is. I mean, I don't know. I think it's for transparency. It's important to let people know, but they didn't. When I asked them about this I don't have the cut pulled, but I did ask Jennifer and Jennifer Pine and Lindsay Wood about this at the open house. I showed you the clips before, and Jennifer said, it's private property information. We don't want to put that out there. Okay, maybe I can understand. They're not required to yet. Once they start doing stuff, they have to. But just to give you an idea of the property displacements, so basically the number is 64. There's a lot of different ways to read this, but when you go to the table that they have at the very beginning of their EIS, and they talk about the effects of this, they're saying up to 64, I believe is the number. Please don't be wrong, Nathan. Up to 64 businesses and up to 4 single-family homes, depending on which design option they do. And before I do this, let me just see if there's any questions here. All right. Oh, sorry. Let me hit some of these questions real fast, and then we'll get to the walkthrough. The Texan Rhino says it might be best to check cost against other tram-like systems. Metros are going to have higher costs for all. Great point. And I am not an expert on that, and I don't have the expertise. I got to find someone to do a cost per mile story, which I have not done. So I'm just kind of, roughing that out just to give an idea. JT Burgess, what's the difference between light rail and commuter rail? That is a story I am working on, and there's a bunch of differences. Mainly, okay, so commuter rail is on basically separate right of way. Like think about your freight train, like the train lines, the existing train lines in Austin, it's a separated right of way typically. Whereas light rail is often on the street, or very or maybe elevated sometimes. Maybe it goes beneath the street for a little bit. And that's the other thing that's important to point out about the comparisons here with the Transit Cost Project, which I don't know. Oh yeah, with the transit cost project, is these are not all light rail systems. So let's see what we got here. Hopefully we haven't quite reached moody saturation quite. Sorry, Nathan Peters with a funny joke about the naming rights of the caps. I wish I had the chat up. Okay, I'm an hour plus late, LOL. Can you go over the locations again? Yuri, we're going to go over the locations in depth right now. Let's get into it. And if you're watching this on Twitter or X, this is also on YouTube, youtube.com/@KUTNathan, or you can go to KUT's YouTube channel. But I'm trying to build up my subscribers. Let's check the subscriber. Let's check my subscriber count. We got 35. Wow. And I've been streaming for an hour and a half, and 5 people are still watching on this. I don't know how many are watching elsewhere. But, I'll do this even if I'm all by myself. Just going to check on Twitter or X, whatever, if there's any questions. No, it's just, okay. So, all right, we're ready. We're good to go. Let's go. Let's do it. Hurry up. Okay. Jeez, I'm getting to it. Let's look at these conceptual drawings. These are the conceptual drawings. These are the maps. This shows where. Now, important to note here with these maps, this is showing the base design. This is not showing the sort of changes that ATP wants to do. Now, keep in mind, ATP is working on this design, changing it and modifying it, and they're still modifying it. So probably what they have now is going to be different than, they're sort of tweaking things. So it's definitely different than this. So this is there may be some changes to this design, but I just want to give you that caveat because I want to dive in here a little bit and get a closer look. So let's go down and let's see if we can find 38th Street. This is, again, look at this. It takes forever to get through this. 38th. So I actually do have a walkthrough, and while I find this, this is where the light rail line would start. This is what I'm looking for in the maps. Is 38th Street. 38th Street and Guadalupe. All right, 38th and Guadalupe. That's where it's supposed to start. And right there is going to be, the plan is to build a park and ride garage, a parking garage with, I believe, 300 parking spaces. And that will require the raising of these businesses. Of course, they're entitled to their compensation under the U.S. Constitution, the Texas Constitution, federal law, and state law. You can take people's private property for it's eminent domain. I'm sure you may have heard of it before, especially living here in Texas and with all of this stuff going on. So you know what? I'm having a hard time finding 38th and a half Street because I know it was in. 38. I'm like one of those Twitch streamers with the 5-hour stream here. I swear I'm not striving for that. I just did want to get through this material. I spent a lot of time putting together the responses, and I also got some drone shots from many locations along this route. So I want to kind of show you the map while I'm showing you the drone shot. And there's going to be some reconfigurations of local streets as well. So, for example, like Guadalupe Street, it's going to be closed to conventional traffic, cars and trucks. It'll only be like buses and bikes and pedestrians, of course. So, if you're driving, you won't be able to drive down the drag anymore under this plan. You would basically go down Nueces, which is going to be converted to a two-way street. Now, the city's been talking about making the Nueces a two-way street for quite some time now, and every now and then this guy on Twitter asks me, hey, what's going on with this project? And I am reminded, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And I ask the city, and they will say, oh, we're just doing this and that, and it's been delayed a little bit, but they have made some progress in that regard. And okay, here we go. They have made some progress. So I'm going to go back to my maps here. So what we're looking at is, I'm going to do the walkthrough. I'm going to add on the fly here, add my Firefox to this scene. By the way, if any of you are like pros at live streaming, I would very much welcome your feedback. No, I didn't want that. I wanted, okay, whatever. I'll just go back and forth. So, what scene is selected? All right. So this there. All right, so we got our walkthrough with my slides here, and I do not want this to reset every time This is live radio, folks. This is live. We're just doing it live. Pause when visible, unpause, stop, unpause when not visible, manual. Okay, so this should not be going back and forth when I flip back and forth. What if we can just add this to this? Go boom. Yeah, I can. Okay, so here's the slideshow. I can turn this off and on. Slideshow, 38.5 Street. Boom. Here is the schematic. Sorry, 38th Street, not 38.5. This is the station right here. You can see the station would be at just north of 38th Street, and this green area is the right of way. And it looks like there's a I think there is a traffic light at 39th right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't go around here a lot. So anything thatched here, 214626. We're going to break some news here for you. I have been going through painstakingly block by block, 214626, to look at which properties would be raised because, again, ATP did not want to put that in their EIS, and they're not legally obliged to, but agencies do that sometimes in the interests of transparency. This is University Car Wash and Vehicle Inspections, according to the Travis County. I believe that's what this is right now. Sorry, the Travis County CAD does not have that business name. They just have the owner, which is Ryden or Hyden Partners Limited. That would be demolished. You can kind of see here. I'm going to look at the legend. Let me make sure you can see this. As I scroll over, it's not letting me show you. There we go. Oh, well, let me show you. I got to select the other thing. Boom. Okay, so you can see the legend here, and this purple line is. Proposed right of way. So this would be the new, looks like proposed right of way. Okay. We're looking at, see all that? Yeah, you can. Okay. Let's go down. We actually have to go up, and we're just going to cruise on down the road here. Here's 38th Street. You can see this is a 214621. I have a spreadsheet. I've been trying to figure, this is a Jiffy Lube. That would be torn down, relocated, of course. Moving down here, we're passing 38th Street. This is 215586 is a Groovy Lube, I believe. It may have changed. I know a lot of these changed. I think there's food trucks there. Coming down the way here, this would be an opportunity for folks to cross over, or rather the trains to cross over, I believe is what those are. And these are proposed Metro bike stations. I am not an engineer, so I'm just going by the legend here, hacking together the knowledge where I can. And you can kind of see these street reconfigurations, like the green here is the right of way for the light rail, which allows it to go so much faster than you're skipping through traffic. So imagine there's gridlock here. The right of way is like the light rails is just zipping on by. As you show the elevations, and so this 211 is this is across from Wheatsville Co-op. I know I identified that property. It is My Cleaners and Alterations, I believe. This is Wheatsville. I think they're relocating. They said they had to relocate because of the Project Connect project. You can see their building is not affected. But they were claiming that the way that their delivery trucks back in and out, it would mean that their delivery trucks would no longer be able to make deliveries, so they had to relocate because of that. But the owner was clear he did support the transit project. So there you go. Now things start to get a little bit interesting. We're approaching 29th Street, and this is Salsa Limon, I think. I just drove past here. You can see how this street would get reconfigured here. To sort of 30th Street. Right now, you if you're familiar, you got to do this sideways. You turn right and turn left to keep going. Here they would align the street a little bit differently. And then one of the largest areas of well, not the largest certainly, but this is Out of the Closet, which is kind of a thrift store. That's definitely still there. Let's move up to the next frame here. This is where the light rail would cut through all of these businesses, which is Kebabzi Mediterranean Grill and Phoenician Resto Cafe. By the way, I should say, I did ask ATP, are you letting people know about all this? They said that they have reached out to the property owners. They said, but what about the people leasing these businesses? I mean, don't they have a right to know? And they said, well, we've just been reaching out to the property owners. Again, they're not legally required at this point to notify the people leasing the businesses. But this always becomes an issue when they put this information. This is public information, and they're just not telling anyone. Yeah, it takes like 2 clicks to find out the name of the property, but here it is. But here, the point of this is so that the light rail line is more aligned, so that they're not doing this harsh turn, so that the ride quality is better. And also, I believe it looks like to keep the road going straight here, they want to have Guadalupe kind of come into Nueces here, so the cars won't be driving down Guadalupe. They're going to come down Guadalupe, and then this will be, I don't know if you can see this, these lines coming down here and then going down Nueces, which will be a 2-way street. 208, you may know 208-323 is the Nexon. This is a gas station. 211. Do you want me to tell you all these? 211-454. Little Patagonia Empanadas and Cafe, and 211-451 is SIPFA. I think did this used to be Ruby's, or was that this one? I don't know. It's now this one is SIPFA. So here we go. Look at this, Dirty Martin's. Okay, this was Dirty Martin's was one of the businesses that was going to be relocated in the initial plans. This is the intersection we're looking at right now. We're looking south. You can kind of, well, you can't see downtown Austin in this one, but this is a drone photo. These are the properties in the middle here. The center middle are the ones that would be displaced. There's the Exxon, and you can see this triangular shaped building is Dirty Martin's. Now, Dirty Martin's has been around for almost a century, since 1926. And they make fries and burgers, decent burgers. I've had them before. I enjoy the food there. And it became, I would say, I don't know, a lightning rod, or the idea of relocating Dirty Martin's, as you probably know if you've been following this, it was became an organizing space. Like Save Dirties became a rallying and sort of anti-Project Connect rallying cry. In fact, Dirty Martin's is a plaintiff in the lawsuit because they didn't want their property to be displaced. Now, what happened was that became very, they had a online petition gathering, I think they had 25,000 signatures, and they had the support of, a local historical organization saying, you can't tear down this historic building. ATP said, well, what they were trying to do was they were trying to avoid hitting any of these properties, which are all residential. They really don't want to move any. They'd rather, no good options, but if they have to displace a business, rather do business than residential, is what the message that they've been sending. But what they said was, there's no way for us to have this right of way in here and save Dirties. Well, it turns out, I guess there is. So they did inform Dirty Martin's about this with a letter a while back, but they never sent anything certified to the guy, to the owner, and he was a little frustrated for some time because he was like, "Can you just guarantee me this won't happen?" ATP was he sent registered letters to them saying, "Can you please just give me something in writing that says you're not going to?" Well, now he has this. So this is showing that Dirty Martin's won't be displaced by this project. So here we are looking at Guadalupe Street. We're looking north, and you can see, a bunch of these businesses, actually. It wasn't just Dirty Martin's. There was more than a dozen that would have been displaced. Some of them are still being displaced, the ones that were at the corner at 29th. And so what we're looking at basically now, but I found this interesting. So here's the proposal is basically to have a station right here at 29th. So Dirty Martin's may in fact benefit from this if the ridership is as projected. There's going to be a lot of foot traffic around here. You get off the light rail and maybe you're hungry. There is an In-N-Out right there, and I think there's a Whataburger right there. So you've got 3 burger places within a 1-minute walk. But that there, so this is the 29th Street station, and here we're turning, and we're getting close to KUT actually, 27th Street, and we're gonna go down. This is looking down Guadalupe Street. This is where we're heading now. All right, going down Guadalupe Street. Let's move up. Boop. And we're at 26th. Okay, this was the other sort of interesting displacement area. Now, this right here, this is KUT. We're right here at the corner of Dean Keaton and Guadalupe. I am not there right now, but this is where the station's located. Proposed Metro bike stations. There actually is a Metro bike station right here right now, so I guess they want to move it over here. But look at this. These red thatched areas, this would be torn down. And what are those? Well, I don't have a drone. Whoops. Sorry. I don't have a drone photo. This is looking down Dean Keaton, and we're looking at, you can see how it would plow through those businesses. I did bring it up in Google Earth earlier, and now I lost it. But basically, it's Jen's, Copies, Moody's Kitchen and Grill, and then another business. Forgive me, I forget the name, because it's constantly changing. It's very difficult to stay in business in some of these locations because of the seasonal nature of the foot traffic, with the school sometimes in session, most of the time in session, but often not. And so having worked at KUT for many years, first across the street and now in the current building, we've witnessed this change. RAP Slices and Ices. I definitely missed that one. It's probably my favorite one that went away. If you know, you know. But hey, hole in the wall, it won't be. This is hole in the wall. It will not be affected. I mean, it won't be damaged at all by this. But the idea is, if Nueces is the north-south route, the idea is to have Dean Keaton come through here, because you wouldn't be able to take Dean Keaton, turn right, and then turn left on 26th Street like you can now. And this is a 7-Eleven right here. You can see the 7-Eleven would lose its gas. It wouldn't be able to get gas at 7-Eleven anymore, I guess, unless they move the fill stations here. But I don't know. So there's other changes here. There's a lot more than just displacements on this map, though. There's new traffic signals. This is a new traffic signal. There's not a traffic signal at 25th now. I'm not sure. I guess maybe you could cross from 25th to 25th. Excuse me, because I'm not sure what else. That must be what that's for. Again, I'm not an engineer, and I've not gone through this page by page with ATP, but I do have some nicer looking maps that I just got yesterday. They don't show everything in here, and I'm not as used to them. I didn't go through those block by block. But all right, moving along here. Let me just show you. Okay, we're getting still interesting here. So now we're looking down Guadalupe Street. This is a drone photo looking north toward 24th Street, and we're getting to basically where this station would be. This would be the University Station. You can see where it would be located. So right here, 23rd, would be just south of 23rd Street. We've got traffic lights here. Let's move up here a little bit. So it would be kind of like right in, I don't know if you're familiar with the campus, it'd be kind of right in, this is the rendering. There's another rendering. This is an older rendering. Kind of right in front of the West Mall area where it says Texas. That's basically kind of whereabouts it would be. This is, if you're on the UT campus, this is one of the busiest, if not the busiest, pedestrian crossing. So it kind of makes sense that they would put it here because it's a ton of foot traffic, all these stores up and down the drag. So let's keep rolling on here. We're riding the light rail line. It's 2033, and we're just cruising, y'all. We're riding it now, and okay, we're coming to MLK. Here's the 7-Eleven. Bye, 7-Eleven. That would be torn down. The 7-Eleven at MLK and Guadalupe Street. Keep moving here. Let's roll on. I'm going to pick up the pace here. I mean, this is supposed to be high frequency rail, right? We're in the right of way. We're not stuck in traffic. We don't have to go so slowly. Here's another station. Boom. 15th Street. Do I have a drone photo of that? No, but I will get to this one. Okay, so 15th Street. And there's a station north of 15th and south of 15th. The one north of 15th would be the northbound station. One south of 15th would be the southbound station. A lot of people work around here because the Texas Capitol Complex is nearby. A lot of government buildings, high-rises, office towers, stuff like that. A lot of people are in this area. And now, as we come down here, this is one of the design changes that's not reflected in this map. But basically, ATP wants to put another station here at Wooldridge Square, which you can see right here. Well, kind of. The green part at the bottom is Wooldridge Square. Here's Wooldridge Square. There was a giant shadow cast by this building, but to the left, that's Wooldridge Square. And I think I know the concept here was that they heard a lot of concerns from folks that, the map, there was just like way too big of a gap in their downtown where there's a lot of people. And so if you're like, what if you're between, let's get Acrobat for a second. I didn't lose my spot in the slideshow, but UT 15th, and then the next one wouldn't be till way down here. So that would be quite a hike when there's a ton of people working in this area. So anyway, that's the rationale behind that, behind putting it at Wooldridge Square. Again, not guaranteed that they're going to do that, but that's what they're recommending in their plan, and that's probably what they're going to do. Let's be real. Okay, back to our walkthrough here. We're just cruising, man. Just like, and I think let's just imagine it's 2033. We've got Wi-Fi, and we've got our like VR glasses on because it's 2033, and so we don't have phones anymore. We have glasses, and we just kind of, the world is, our everything is projected on the world, augmented reality. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about. Metro bike station here. Yeah. So anyway, Wooldridge Square Station. Keep rolling on down here. West 11th, past 10th. Oh, there's Wooldridge Square. What am I doing? That wasn't. This is not Wooldridge Square. Sorry. I've been going on for 2 hours now. Okay. Mario Garza, thank you for presenting details. First time commenter, long time listener. Do you already go over an overview of the whole project layout? That's what we're doing now. Mario, if legislature stops funding mechanism or feds decline, what happens to the tax increase that was implemented? Does it get rolled back or does it get reduced? Fantastic question. I have wondered that myself. And I don't know the answer. I mean, the plaintiffs in the lawsuit say absolutely it gets reduced because you're no longer fulfilling the obligations that authorize the tax increase in the first place. So maybe even if the city doesn't automatically reduce it, that there might be a lawsuit to attempt to reduce it. Or maybe there'd be another bill from the Texas legislature to reduce it. I don't know. It is a very good question. And I think the plaintiffs who are suing to stop this are very much hopeful that it does get reduced or eliminated because it is a sizable chunk of your property tax bill. Has Cat Metro talked about the Texan Rhino? Has Cat Metro talked about trains getting signal priority at intersections? Yes, and I should have mentioned that. Trains will have signal priority at intersections. What is signal priority? It just means like you're coming to the intersection, the traffic signal is like, oh, a train's coming. I'm going to adjust my timing to accommodate that train. And boop, green light. Not always necessarily like instant green light all the way through. If it just turned red, maybe not, but that my understanding anyway, correct, someone who knows more can correct me, but that's the basic gist of it. Sorry, I'm just laughing at how long this is going. Yeah. Okay. So let's go in. Let's keep going. Let's keep rolling here. And if you're with me, if you've been with me the whole time, like props to you. You are my people because I'm all about nerding out on this. If I wasn't live streaming right now, I would be doing something like this, or I did do something like this already, going through these properties, going through this, looking like block by block to see what's going on. Because I am well, that's my job, but also I do find it interesting, and it is just curious. So 196858, have I found this property? I don't believe I noticed that one. Oh no, I did. This is the downtown Austin Motor Bank right here that would get displaced. The red thatched area. There's right across from Wooldridge Square. In fact, probably see it in our side. This one, this motor bank. I always wondered, what is that thing? It's like giant surface parking lot and then like a drive-through thing. It's a drive-through bank, in case you were wondering. Okay, I think it's Dr. Pepper time. I just my editor, who is very smart and very good, is suggesting I might want to wind this down. Andy, I have to go through the map first. I will do it fast. And then I'm going to start answering questions on I don't know. It's maybe not the best for our audience to have these mega videos, but maybe it is for some of y'all. Put a message in the chat if you think I should keep going, and put a message in the chat if you think I should stop. Andy, I'm leading an insurrection now. An insurrection against you to keep this going. Sorry, I'm not trying to be too glib here. It's been a lot of talking, and I can't believe I've lasted this long. But I just want to get through this one thing. I'll tell you what. We're gonna do it on fast mode now, because I could be here all day. Okay, coming down here, past Republic Square, and then it actually turns from we're switching our orientation now. It turns from Guadalupe onto 3rd Street. So up is south, and 3rd Street, coming down 3rd Street, station here at Congress. I actually have some photos of that. No, that's not it. What's going on? All right, forget that. All right, I'm just going to whip through. Forget the drone photos. Coming down here at 3rd Street, boom, and 3rd, turning on Trinity. Now, I did want to mention this because this was another change. It's not, initially the plan was to cut diagonally through this building, which improves the ride quality because you're not doing a right angle turn. You're just going straight diagonally through this, and it was going to be a project in cooperation with the developer of this, but it didn't turn out, and I haven't had a chance to really look into why, but they're leaving the door open to it. I guess they weren't able to reach a deal with the developer. So, and they maybe have a station inside there, but right now the plan is to put it back out on the street here. Cesar Chavez Station would be on Trinity, just south of 3rd. Okay. And then stretching down here to Cesar Chavez Street, we move, and now we hit the bridge. And this is going through the Waller Creek Boathouse, and then bridge over Lady Bird Lake. This would have pedestrian and cyclist lanes coming on through. At this point, now this is not reflected in this map. Not that you can really see the Well, you can see the elevations here, but you see how this comes out. It's like elevated and then comes down to waterfront. They want to keep it elevated, so waterfront station would be elevated right here on the current Statesman site. Which is primed for redevelopment, I believe, and then this magically, that's it. That's where it ends. No, it doesn't. It keeps going, and but our map is shifting here, so we're going to shift just in the interest of expediency, so I don't drive my editors insane. I apologize. Station here, South Congress Station. Why is this messing up? Come on now, it's not showing my slides. It's just showing all the wrong slides. Oh, yeah, because it took me back to the beginning. I did just want to show you this real quick because I got a drone photo of it, y'all, and it looks interesting. South Congress Station. Do we have renderings of that? No, we do not. Okay, so we're moving on back. Oh, I guess I didn't put it in there. Whatever. You know what South Congress looks like. This is sort of lower down, like before the hill, basically. Sort of, Longbow Lane, if you know the area. And coming up west, up Congress, a station here. This is the Oltorf Station. The Oltorf Station at Congress and Oltorf. And there are plans. There's some more displacements here. I might do a separate stream going into more depth with everything here. But basically, there's going to be a park and ride. The plan is to have a park and ride with 150 spots right near Oltorf and Congress. So here we are. Boop-a-doop. Here's just more of the Congress. We're just going in a disjointed fashion here. Moving on down South Congress Avenue. Okay. Elizabeth Street. And a station here. Academy Drive. West James. This is that area. Sorry, I'm losing steam here, my friends. South Congress. This is sort of turning through these existing properties, as you can see, crossing these parking lots, because it has to split off in two directions, right? One direction up Riverside, one direction down Congress. And so the last sort of thing, I'll zip through the end of it, but the last couple things I just did want to emphasize, and I don't even need these maps to do it, because I'm over time here, y'all. I'm just being greedy now. I just wanted to point out one thing, which is there are plans to have the rail line elevated down Riverside Drive. So it would stay elevated across the water, waterfront station, Riverside Drive to Travis Heights Boulevard, and that's where it would lose the elevation. So it would actually look like this down Riverside Drive, like you're something like this. Maybe not exactly like this. I don't know if this is actually the Riverside Drive. That's South Congress. These are just proposals, and I'm just getting sloppy now. But this is how it would cross I-35 at grade, at street level, and then zip on down East Riverside. Boop-a-doo, we're almost done. Riverside Drive. Instead of Faro, here's Pleasant Valley Station. You can see where it would be located, sort of just east of Pleasant Valley Road, and continue on. The Faro Station would be deleted, and they'd add their Grove Station instead. See, that's where the Faro one would be. But they thought Grove might be better because ACC is there, and there's affordable housing development that could be planned for there in the future. And then Montopolis Station at just east of Montopolis Drive. Coming on down and finally arriving at Yellow Jacket Lane. And then going off to one last thing. I swear this is the last thing for real. Is the operations and maintenance facility would displace most, I think about a third, not most, but a third of the businesses. And this is on Airport Commerce Drive. I can't find the rendering, but basically Airport Commerce Drive. So we're going to have more reporting about that. I'm going to have a lot more on this. If you stuck with me through this, much respect and thanks to you. Please leave a like. Please subscribe. Please consider supporting KUT so we can do more reporting, more journalism, KUT.org/donate. And I just thank you for hanging out with me for this long stream. I've never done one this long before, but it's been fun. And give me feedback. Let me know. Is this too insanely long? Is it not long enough? What would you like to learn more of? What would you like to learn less of? Did you like my French Bulldog? Stuff like that. Any feedback, any constructive feedback would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I'm Nathan and Bernier.